Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Stories. I am your host, Dr. LL, Loralyn Mears of Steeris here, bringing you all kinds of amazing people every week. I just love it. All my guests just make my job so easy. Today's guest is George Thomas. He's the founder of Financial Freedom Builders, and he focuses on helping individuals get that mindset first and then develop the habits and longer term thinking required so they can build sustainable wealth and financial independence. George, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Doc. And yeah, this is going to be a great episode, and we're going to give something really meaningful to your audience, okay?
Oh, excellent. Well, just like you're giving meaningful things to your audience, let's just start right in there. Never mind even the problem. We'll come back to that. You've recently done, okay, in the last 6 months or so, a course on financial literacy. Talk to us about what's happening and where your course really took people. I think
Yeah,
it's really important.
yeah, no, there's so many people right now globally, but let's talk specifically United States. But right now, United States, most people, 60%, they say 60, it's probably closer to 70% from based off of my estimation, are living paycheck to paycheck. Most
Yeah.
people right now are just finding themselves barely getting by. Some of it is self-inflicted, let's be honest. We're eating out too much, we're buying this, we're buying that. And it's led to people having to either work more overtime, which, let's give credit to our government wanting to put us more into the rabbit hole by removing the taxes from overtime, right? So it gives us more incentive to waste more time, right, working. And then others are working a second job, some are doing side hustles, and some are just finding a way to survive, whether it's Uber to walking the dog. And so what's happened is that a lot of people's times are consumed. And what that means is since you're working too much, you don't really have time to really understand how is it that you can really multiply your income while you're multiplying your time right now in regards to how much time you're using to make money. So what we decided to do was provide everyone a tool, those that need it and those that can benefit from it, which has been countless individuals, a tool that will allow you to learn at your own pace with lifetime access. And there are 4 modules currently right now in place, and it's called Freedom Builders Academy. And it emphasizes for now through the 4 modules, 4 chapters: budgeting. A lot of people want to understand, okay, how do you budget your money? How do I organize my money? Management of expenses. Okay, what's considered a good expense? What's considered not a good expense? How can I do something different? We dive in deep. We provide templates. There are study guides. There are quizzes, a homework, final exam at the end. Third chapter is investing. Everybody wants to know how to invest. What do I invest into? Is this safe? Is this not safe? Am I doing about this the right way? Am I keeping my kids in mind? What can I be doing? And so this is a chapter full of information that will give you all of the information you would need to put into action to start investing and multiplying your income. And the last one is time action and action implementation. So the idea is a lot of times people want to do something or organize it, or they have a vision or a plan, but they don't know, okay, how can I take it from it being in my mind to being something that I'm actually applying on a regular basis? And so a lot of times people don't know what the steps are. A lot of entrepreneurs out there, you all have had to learn along the way. What's the process? How to organize your time, how to organize your strategy. So we give folks a whole chapter on how to implement a plan or a vision and how to put it into action through organizing your time. Each of the chapters have a 30-minute instructor-led video. There are study guides, quizzes, and at the end, there's a final exam. But if you go through the course, which usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks, on the other side, you're going to see a transformation that you've been looking for. And the beautiful thing is you can do it with your family and beyond. So, yeah, it's been transformation, I would say, to say the least, Laurelyn.
Okay, well, that's amazing. We're going to let folks know where they can find that at the end. But I want to pull back away from the specifics of the course and that what you're doing and talk about some other things that lead to the reasons why people need to take it.
Yes.
So, first, let's talk about wealth as a behavior, right? Not income. A lot of people equate wealth with how much they earn, but wealth building is really related to behavior. Can you talk about that? You hinted at it when you said, should you be eating out every day? I don't know. Maybe. Should you? Should you be spending that $7 every day on that Frappuccino? I don't know. Or do you really need those Gucci sneakers,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So talk to us about that behavior.
That's right. So there's an emphasis that we call, it's called the wealth building mindset. Most people don't understand how money really operates, and what they've done is they've prioritized the wrong things, which allowed them to either stay in the same rut or actually work their way backwards. The first thing you have to understand is that time is your most valuable asset. Time is what leads you to financial freedom. So if you can prioritize time and understand that your most valuable asset is time, then you start restructuring how is it that you function daily with the time you have. So then what you realize is if time is your most valuable asset, then money is not the most valuable asset. Matter of fact, what we tell people all the time is money is not really your asset. Money is simply just a tool. And if you understand that it's just a tool to help you build whatever it is that you're trying to build for your future, which will require your most valuable asset of time, then you realize that, okay, if I can understand how to utilize this tool, I can do certain things. So if you're trying to rebuild or build something and there's something that needs a screw, right? You won't take a saw to to drill in the screw, right? Everyone knows you need a screwdriver. So you need that particular tool to drill this to do this whole piece. So most times what happens is people are using money as an asset or as a resource, but it's ultimately a tool. So if you can acquire as much of the tool as possible, preserving your most valuable asset, which is time, that's when you start seeing true advancement in your financial journey. And so what we tell folks is your job is to find ways to make as much money or at least keep as much money as you can utilizing the least amount of time. And so, of course, you talked about the Frappuccino. One of the things that we always emphasize is and this is the first thing that we talk about in our financial community is that the most valuable piece of financial information you need in your life to focus on is your net worth. Net worth is an equation. It is your net income less your total expenses. So if we go back to elementary school, 101, that means in the equation, there are two ways to impact the outcome of that equation in the subtraction problem. So you can either increase your net income, get another job, you can get a side hustle, you can go to Uber, you can walk the dog, kind of what we were talking about earlier in the day. But a lot of those things in the net income require you to utilize your most valuable asset, which is time. Nothing necessarily wrong with it, but you have to understand that time is the most valuable asset, right? So you're using that asset to acquire the tool. But on the other side of it, you can still also improve your net worth by just decreasing your total expenses, reducing the amount of times you eat out. Maybe not going Gucci. Maybe you go with Nike. You go with, you take a step down. You organize how much is coming out. And the value on that piece is you can reduce your total expenses without necessarily using your most valuable asset, which is time. And yet at the same time, you're still improving your net worth. So if you can reduce your expenses and invest a little time in improving your net income, then you're going to see significant improvement in your overall net worth, which is all about how much you're able to keep. And so it's just reshaping that you don't necessarily need to work more to make more. And that's the wealth building mindset.
You didn't say it explicitly, but I'm going to put it out there. A lot of folks talk about the concept that if you trade time for money, you will never be wealthy. Do
Correct.
you get into that at all? Do you have people that go, wait, what, what? What do you mean? When you're saying here that time is your most valuable asset, money is kind of like a byproduct or literally a currency, a tool that reflects the kinds of things that you've done.
Correct.
But I don't hear enough people talking about that trading time for money. They're like, well, I'm well paid, for my hour I go walk the dog or this or that, or I consult or I do whatever. I wish there was more emphasis on that. Are you getting into that at all with the folks that you counsel?
Absolutely. There's a lot of times that we've had conversations with young couples that are, combined, maybe they're making, 150, 60, 70, $80,000 a year. Barely making it by to have a young child. They're not understanding kind of how to get through. And I tell them all the time, I say, there are people that I'm aware of, physicians and executives and such that make $350,000 a year. And yet those individuals are living in a scenario where they are literally strapped for cash and they can't breathe financially. And you say, how in the world is that possible? It's because simply they just haven't figured out it's about how much money you keep and not how much money you make. And so with that, there are people that are making less than $100,000 and are financially free simply because of the mindset that they are spending less than what's coming in. And so on the other side, their net worth may very well only be $1,000. But if you have a physician making $300,000, $400,000 a year, but they're spending $450,000 a year, they, although it doesn't feel that way when you see the vehicles, when you see the gold chains, when you see the clothes that they're wearing, you are financially further along than the physician is at the current moment because they're mishandling their funds. And so at the end of the day, if you can find ways to compound and multiply your income without using time, that's how you really ultimately get to those end games. And so I always tell everybody the same thing. The reason I ever got into this whole journey, it wasn't about making money. It was about the fact that I did not want to miss those moments with my three kids. I have three kids. I have a 9, a 7, and a 5-year old. Three amazing young boys. I've been married for 10 years. And at the end of the day, I did not, yeah, for real, thank you. But at the end of the day, I did not want to miss any of the moments. I didn't want to miss, the first steps. I didn't want to miss the first time they made their first soccer goal or their first basketball shot or when they made the honor roll or making vacations and hey, just because trips and we're going on a cruise and next month we're actually going to Europe. Hopefully everything's going to be okay, but I'm sure we'll be okay. But we're going to Europe next month. And so all of these things, it was about the moments that I was about. I was after the moments. And that's the time that I'm using for that because I'm not using it to make money because I have found ways to have my money compounding while it doesn't require me to go make the money. And so that's the emphasis we tell people all the time. Don't get lost too much into how much money you're making. Do you have to make money? Of course you got to make money. You got to make money to be able to multiply money. But don't get lost in how much money you're making to emphasize more on how much money you're keeping.
Is it hard for folks to unlock that, George?
100%. You want to know why, Lauren? And you may
Yeah.
appreciate this. It really is because unfortunately how we were programmed or how we've been programmed here in our society here in the United States. In the late 1800s, John Rockefeller created the General Education Board. I hate to say it, might have been way where it started. At the end of the day, we were heading to interesting times in our economy, right? At that time, of course, you and I weren't alive. However, during those times, there was difficult moments, and the idea is that they wanted to find ways to help individuals, especially lower income individuals. A lot of them are African American, but there were all sorts of different demographics, to be able to have a vocation so that they are able to sustain income for their family forever. So they got into what they call the General Education Board to find a way to give people the ability to get education to learn a vocation. All that went well for a while. We went through the roaring 20s and then the golden ages and all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden, the next piece was the pension. Okay, if you stay loyal to a company for a long period of time, you'll get what's called the pension at the end of the year. So, I mean, at the end of your career, so that you will have money waiting for you at the end. Okay, then we went through the 401k route, right? And that's where we are today. The idea was, though, they wanted you to learn something so that you would then use that skill to make money. So from the beginning, the reason why it's difficult, Loralyn, is because we are being conditioned and programmed, even to this day, that we have to go get a vocation to be able to make money. Now, when kids are in school, hey, what do you want to be? I want to be this. Oh, you're going to have to go to college. You got to go here. You got to do this to become this and to become that. Conditioning people in the cycle to continue to have to work to make money. So the moment I tell somebody, hey, here's the thing you don't understand. The thing you don't understand is that they are telling you this is what you need to do. But don't you realize that John Rockefeller himself is not in the school system? Right? The next piece, when we went through the gold rush, everybody was grabbing to go to, the West to go after and get gold. Again, spending time to go get money. So folks are all rushing to go get gold and to go, scoop out gold. But the majority of the money in that time was not made by those who went to go get gold. The money that was really made the most during that time was those that sold the shovels. Because the shovels here, they will go buy the shovels to go use time for money. The shovels made, money is being made off of the fact that the shovel was created. And all of a sudden, the shovel creator is not spending time trading time for money because the money's being generated. And so it wasn't about chasing the gold. It wasn't about chasing the American dream. What it was about, how can we make money without using time?
I want to go back to one of the things that you just said and challenge it a little here, in that I do see Gen Z rising up now and saying, no, we get it. We've got a gig. We've got to do this. College enrollment's at an all-time low, right? 25% over what it technically should be or could be, given the number of people that are age eligible. So that's going down. People are like, I don't want a $250,000 debt. Thank you very much to come out and not get a job,
That's
right?
right.
So I do see patterns shifting and Gen Z really thinking about it differently. And for the last 5 or 6 years, I believe the number one career that people are interested in is being an influencer. And number
Mm-hmm.
two is being a rapper. So I do think people are looking at it differently. Do you see this too, or just starting?
100%. And I think it's only going to get worse, Laurelyn, because here's the problem. The issue is that AI now are going to take away jobs of these individuals of where they're going to school for. I was just talking to a young kid yesterday. Actually, they were interested in joining our financial community. I said, "Okay, great. What do you do?" "Oh yeah, I'm gonna program software engineer, programmer, this and that." And so I asked them. I said, I didn't want to be direct about it, but along the discussion, I said, "Hey, do you guys use AI in your curriculum?" And so he says, "No, we try to do things on our own, and then we try to figure it out. And then the teacher says that, once we're done, we can use AI to verify." So to me, I'm like, I'm hearing him, and I didn't want to tell him the next thing of what I wanted to really tell him was, sounds like you're wasting your time, buddy. Sounds like the teacher already knows that you don't need to be doing this, and this software can do it for you. And here's what's happening. What we're seeing is a lot of these Fortune 500 companies. The other day it was Block. We've seen Microsoft getting in it, Amazon, and others, but Block was the big one. Block came out, Jack Dorsey came out and made it very clear, hey, we knew this was going to happen and we could have dragged this on for 5 years, but we did not want to be disrespectful and waste anyone's time. So we're just going to cut 40% of our workforce simply because AI can do the job that you can. So here's the thing. If if you didn't do it before and you didn't realize that you have to find another way without trading time for money, many of these vocations are not going to be existent. So if they're not existing, then the question becomes, where are the jobs coming? So if you don't realize that you really need to recondition yourself now, you are going to be forced to be reconditioned later. And then that's where many people are going to struggle. And here's the thing, Laurelyn, it's not the blue collar jobs. It's the white collar jobs that are in trouble. It's the folks that go 9 to 5, making 150, 170, $200,000 salary, living in a nice neighborhood, etc. Those are the ones that are in the most trouble because your job usually requires some sort of software that now AI can do a lot faster, more efficient, more accurate, and it doesn't ask for a raise, but you ask for those things. And so if they can remove the cost, they will do this in the name of shareholders' wealth, right? Maximizing shareholders' wealth. That's what these profitable companies do. So now, okay, so if those jobs don't exist, then what are you gonna do to make money? Because you're gonna have a lot of time in your hands.
Well, I want to actually really hit on that. So, you and I have an age difference. I'm older, I'm a Gen X, and I have this conversation with many, many, many founders, many folks that are being aged out of the workplace because ageism is real, right? Like, there's a
Yep.
lot of these components and aspects to hiring, firing, all of the rest of that, plus AI you've brought in.
Yes.
And I have the conversation often with people in my age group and say, well, how many business coaches, life coaches, consultants, realtors do we need? Right? Like, so how do you stand out? Where do you go? Does it come back down to this idea you need to manage the money that you have and amplify what you do have? And if it's not enough, you need to first maybe find ways to cut what you do spend and then figure out ways to supplement your income, right? To bring more. Is
Yes.
that a fair statement coming from your age group?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and you bring up a lot of folks from the Gen X. I connect with a lot of folks from the Gen X community. A lot of them are just saying, man, this workplace, this workforce is shifting quick. A lot of these people are talking about efficiency. I'm not as efficient. They want to check my work. A lot of times, hey, I've always been autonomous. Nobody's ever come into my backyard, checking what I'm doing. Now they want to make sure, asking why I'm wasting this, why I'm wasting this resource. It's like no one's ever asked me. I've been here for 25 years. Buddy, you were at the time when I was working, you were maybe in kindergarten in the first grade, but now you're asking me how I'm doing this. But here's the reality. So a lot of folks, simply Gen X, they're struggling. No one wants to just say it out loud. Everyone wants to kind of tiptoe behind what's going on. The reality is that Gen X, even the millennials, and Gen Z, they're all struggling right now because they're trying to understand, is my job safe? There was a survey that came out earlier this week. Only 28, and I repeat, only 28% of Americans believe that their job is safe. And I'm here to tell you, you're probably right. If you think your job can be automated, you are not safe. And so what do you do? Yes, I agree with you in regards to reducing cost. You can only reduce so much cost. You got to eat something eventually. You got to find somewhere to live. And if you got kids, they have needs. If you got a spouse, they have needs. So you can only reduce costs so much. However, I will tell you, the majority of the people listening to this episode, I can assure you that you probably have significant opportunities in how much you're spending. And if you don't believe me, nor truly understand what we're saying, find somewhere to connect. Doesn't have to be with us. I could care less if it's me. I'm here to just provide you good guidance and something to think about following this episode. You probably need to get someone to give you a second set of eyes on what you got going on. But here's the second thing. The second thing is you're not going to, you nor I, any of us, will not make it on the where this financial economic society is heading next. We're not going to make it if we're not investing. And you are going to have to get comfortable investing and multiplying your income, putting some to risk, calculated risk, and finding ways to acquire assets. And this is literally everyone listening to this. We will get left behind when this is all said and done. The dollar, the value of the dollar. I just saw this maybe, I think earlier this week. $100 today, actually $100 20 years ago, I think it was. No, 10 years ago. $100 10 years ago today would only be worth 80 bucks. So when you think about it, you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's still the same currency. Yes. But the cost of goods and services have gone up. So what's essentially is happening is your dollar is not going as far anymore in society, specifically the American dollar. It's not going as far, which is why you are finding yourself having to work more. You're working more to offset the same things you're dealing with because the things that you're spending are going up. So your dollar value is going down. So the only way to combat the declining value of the dollar is to be able to multiply it through interest. And you have to find ways to aggressively do this. Some might say, oh, investing is risky. Well, I'll tell you this. You want to know what's riskier than investing? Listening
Not
to this
investing.
episode and not doing anything.
Right.
That, my friend, whoever's listening to this, that's risky business. I got a family of 5, got a beautiful wife, 3 amazing kids. Not doing anything after listening to this episode is not an option in my life, and it shouldn't be an option in your life. You will have to assume some risk and be comfortable in being able to multiply your income through investing to be able to make it to where this economy is going next.
And you can see there's a lot of indicators. In April, I noticed some new ads coming out. McDonald's, the $3 meal, Burger King, the $4 meal. Last year, it was the 6 and 7 and $8 meals. And
Yep.
so they're seeing, right, the economic crunch that a lot of Americans are facing right now. And of course, they've got to protect their own business interests and shareholders. So they're bringing the costs of all of these things down. Of course, the portions are going with them.
Yes.
But this is the thing. There are all these indicators that there is financial trouble out there. And so let's talk about some of the patterns that you're seeing when
Mhm.
someone has been struggling financially over time. What patterns are you seeing that maybe your clients really, and they're like, what? What? I didn't recognize that. What are you seeing? What are you seeing, George?
Well, the
That they
first
don't.
thing is I would tell you, Laurelyn, is that most people aren't organizing themselves. That's leading to a lot of unnecessary spending. I'll give you a couple just It seems so practical and so simple, but it is creating probably a lot more problems in some folks' lives than they even realize. Let's just go to basic example of just eating. Every day, we're all eating. Unless you're fasting or something, we all have to eat. So we start in the morning, probably all in our homes, doing a breakfast. Sometimes we eat like a cereal or we eat a protein shake, whatever. Usually from home, you start okay. It's after you leave the home in the morning that most people go downhill. Most times, people during the day get hungry. So now they're getting a snack. Whether they're buying it at a restaurant, whether they're getting something at the gas station, etc., they're buying something. The next one is lunchtime. On average, the Americans usually spend about $40 to $60 a week on buying lunches at during a regular 9 to 5 working week. So you're buying a lunch every day. You're getting hungry. The same time you're buying a sandwich. You're going out with buddies. You're getting sushi. You're getting this. You're getting that. You're coming back with the itis. Going right back to work. Then you got activities going on in the afternoon, whether it's yourself, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's hanging out with friends, whether it's playing sports, whether it's kids' activities, whether it's whatever the case may be. You're running around, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the day, of course, you're what? You're hungry. And now it's dinner time. And guess what's not done? Dinner in the kitchen. The stove is completely empty. When did I have time? I've been out all day. I've been here, been there. So what happens then? You're now buying dinner. On average, a plate in dinner is about $20 to $25 these days per person. So all of a sudden, you are now knowing, that's the thing, knowing this is every day going to be a problem. Literally every day, we're not organizing ourselves. And so what happens most times is most people start eating away the majority of their money. And every day, the problem presents itself, and every day we don't do anything about it because we're not organizing ourselves. So if you know good and well, every day you're going to get hungry around lunch and dinner, why don't we proactively do something about it to help us what? Increase our what? Net worth. We can reduce our expenses by meal prepping. Just make food. If you can't do lunch and dinner because you don't have time, pick one. Start with one. Ideally, do both. If you really want to level up, you do both. But pick one. Either pick lunch or pick dinner and make sure that daily you have something prepared for at home, which means you need a grocery shop. You need to find time you need to interrupt whatever your flow is now to find time to be able to prep for that meal, whether it's lunch or dinner. And you commit to it. If you can reduce one of those two, you're going to start saving money. Now, some may say, well, I do well financially right now and I get by. And we're not necessarily missing out on bills or whatever. We don't save as much, but etc. Okay. But here's the good news. Good for you. But the good news is now that you're doing this, you're getting a cost savings on average. If you're doing dinner, maybe 70, 80, 90, 100, $120 a week because of this move. And now what you can do is, since you've now reduced your expenses, now you can use that to increase your net income. Now you can take that money and you can save some of it. I wouldn't save all of it, but I would save some of it because wherever you put it in, it's not going to make you a lot of interest, which is not going to help you compound your money. But you can take a chunk of it and save. And then the other end of it, you can then use and start investing to allow your money to now start multiplying more. Now, here's the benefit. You're now saving money and investing, and you have not picked up 1 hour of overtime. You're still working the same amount of hours you were before, and now you're further advancing your financial agenda. So then the challenge becomes, can you find other solutions like that along the way? And now you're going to start seeing that you're moving a lot faster.
When I've had conversations with folks in and around the concept of building wealth, this sort of thing, they've argued that, well, it's so easy. I'm just so tempted, right? They have these short-term thinking traps. For example, TikTok shop or Amazon, click, order, it's done. DoorDash, click, order, it's done. Uber Eats, whatever the brand is that you want to talk about. Or even all these meal preps, ready for you, and you buy it. Of course, it's a fortune compared to if you went and bought the chicken yourself or the vegetables yourself or whatever at the grocery
Yeah,
store and chop them. Like, oh my goodness, take out a knife and a cutting board, chop
there
your
you go.
vegetables, right? Oh my goodness. And
Hilarious.
so people say that I really don't have a chance. It's just Everything out there just makes it so easy.
It does.
I can't resist. What am I supposed to do? Everybody else is. Do you see that trap a lot, George?
We do. And
Yeah.
here's the thing. A lot of times folks say they don't have time also. So then I ask, okay, so then this goes back to the chapter in the academy where we talk about time, action, and implementation. What is that you're doing with your time? Have you ever wrote out what is it that you do with all of your time? How much hours do you sleep? How many hours are you spending working? How many hours are you spending on social media? Uh-oh, right? How many hours are you watching TV? How many hours are you with the family? How many hours are you with the kids? You write out specifically and be transparent about it. You will identify very quickly that a lot of the time you don't have is being actually thrown away into stuff that's not going to help your long-term goals. And so all I ask is, can we just take a sliver of that wasted time to use it into productivity? It's the same thing when I was in my exercise journey. Back in 2022, I was at the time, I had a dad bod. I was 225 pounds and I had 26% body fat. And this was in the summer of 2022. And I said, okay, this is where the buck stops. I've got to get back to where I was before I started having children. And so I looked at my time. I said, okay, I do work these hours. I have the kids. I don't like to miss anything, right? Going back to things that are important to me. I have involvement in my community and in my church. I do this, I do that, I do this. I waste time doing this, doing that. I sleep this amount of time. So my at the end I said, okay, I can cut off an hour and a half of my sleep time to start getting up at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, and I can hit the gym because this time here won't impede with all the other things that I do during the day. June 2022, never forget it. I got on the horse and got to work. And literally till today, obviously I'm not 225 pounds, obviously I'm not 26% body fat. So literally to today, what I have found is that now this has been incorporated and embedded as just a lifestyle for me. So for everyone that doesn't have time to meal prep or to do these things, all you have to do is map out all of your time and then literally carve out from wherever bucket you want where to replace that time with meal prepping. And then just simply be disciplined, follow through, and if you give it enough time, you will see the progress on the other side.
Ooh,
Living
you
example.
cued into, yeah, good. Yay, good job. Like, congratulations on the weight loss. And again, for those that aren't having the visual experience, George does not look overweight from what
Yeah.
we can see from his shoulders up. Looks like,
That's right.
he looks like a guy who goes to the gym. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now, you pulled on a magic word there. You said discipline. My next
Hmm.
question for you was going to be with respect to wealth and wealth management and mindset. Is it discipline or is it opportunity that generates wealth?
It's two things. It's process and discipline. Discipline is good, but if you don't got a process, so hey, yep, I'm every day, I'm going every week, I'm going to work 60 hours a week for the next 20 years of my life. Okay. You'll be 55, tired, and still working 60 hours a week. That doesn't mean you got anywhere. Because if you spent 60 hours a week of worth of money, you didn't get anywhere. So discipline with process. So then the question becomes is with the discipline you're going to follow through, what's going to be your process? When I was in the gym, I'm getting up at 4:45 every day and I'm gonna go hit this gym. I'm gonna follow this particular weight plan. On Monday, I'm gonna do cardio. Tuesday, I'm doing chest. Thursday, I'm doing legs. Friday, I'm resting. Wednesday, legs. Saturday, shoulders, right? Sounds like it's fake, but that's literally my process. And then I'm going to follow the meal plan. And if I stick to that process with the discipline on the other side, I will see the results I'm going. So the key is yes, have the discipline, but what is going to be your money system? And if you build out your money system followed with your discipline, then yes, you will see the progress on the other end. And then opportunity is an enhancer. Opportunity will enhance your wealth. It won't necessarily make you wealthy. The discipline and process, if you stick to, will make you wealthy, but opportunity will enhance the wealth you'll make. And that's kind of what I've identified in my life. Just sticking to that and having my money system in place and remaining disciplined, an opportunity has found me along the way, which allowed me to enhance and fan the flame a lot harder, which allowed the takeoff happen.
Excellent. Well, I love that. Now, where can people find you, George? Where can they find Financial Freedom Builders? How do they get in touch with you, get access to your programs? Where do they go?
Yeah, I think the easiest way from here is I would tell everyone is to look into the course. It's www.freedombuildersacademy.com. If you go there, it's literally a stand-up course that is for literally anyone. If you're good with managing expenses, but you need an opportunity with investing, something there for you. If you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to implement something, there's a chapter for you. If you're looking to budget, hey, I'm making good money. I just don't know where it goes. There's a chapter for you. Everything that you need to get started that is the ultimate great place to start. Of course, we have social medias and all these things, and I would love to engage with you with people there. But my biggest thing is that I emphasizing so much on people taking action. Because here's the thing. I don't believe that this middle class is going to exist for a long time. We are already seeing the divide, and AI is coming for the white collar jobs. Who is in the middle class? It's the white collar jobs. So it's those that are helping the 1% remain 1%. And then it's just enough money to be away from the lower class saying, I don't live in the hood. I live here. My kids goes to this prep school. We don't go to there. If the jobs don't exist, now what? And so what we're trying to do is help people who are in the lower class start the journey of trying to cross that big gaping bridge because there's a big river coming, helping people try to start getting into the water to start swimming across. And if they're in the middle class, helping people push higher so that they don't get wiped out in the middle and then now they're starting and they're working their way backwards. But I just encourage everybody to take action. It's clear as day what is happening. Even just now, at the time of this recording, obviously they got some stuff going on in the other side of the world, and some of the negotiations that they're talking about opening the strait or what they got going on is that they plan to charge a toll. They would like to charge a toll for folks that take through the boat. They're not charging, and this is you, United States, in conjunction with them talking about this plan. They're not charging people American dollars for the fee. They're charging people in Bitcoin. They are using other currencies because clearly the American dollar won't ever disappear, but it is clearly declining. And so all of us who utilize the American dollar in real time, while all this nonsense is happening, our dollars are being devalued, which means your what? Your time, your most valuable asset in real time is being devalued. So you got to go and you have to take action because I'm telling you, we will be left behind if we don't have a plan.
Ah, George, I think that was the most impassioned plea I've heard out of 300 and some guests. Take action, right? That's what needs to happen. At the end of the day, it's on you. It's on me. It's on each one of us. You can't blame that the advertisements are there and making it tempting to go buy those new Gucci shoes or whatever, right? You've got to have, like you said, the process, the discipline, and just really have that plan, right? You got to stick to it and you got to do something because what's
That's right.
working today is not probably going to work tomorrow. And if it's not working today, it's certainly not going to start working tomorrow on its own, right?
That's right.
Last question, George. If we got a chance to peek into your closet and there was some footwear that defined who you, George Thomas, founder of Financial Freedom Builders, is and personifies who you are, what are we looking at? Describe what we're looking at and why that is so you.
Two shoes. It'd be two. Number one is running shoes. I literally am so serious about my fitness journey since I started in 2022. My running shoes, they're Nikes, just regular Nike Revolution Run shoes. They get the job done, but those are worn out for sure. And the other ones are a pair of black Kohans. Why? Usually, a lot of times, more often than not, if I'm not in running shoes, usually I'm in dress shoes, whether it's in meetings, whether it's doing public speaking, whether it's at church. Those two pairs of shoes would probably define me pretty easily. A pair of running shoes and a pair of dress shoes.
Not surprised. I kind of had you pegged because that's pretty much the answer that most of our guests give us. A lot would say just the running shoes, but people are like, yeah, I do have some dress shoes, just, for those other occasions, right? We've
That's
got that
right.
dual personality. We're pulled here, we'll pull there, right? Everywhere we need to go as entrepreneurs. So with that, George, wonderful. Thank you so much for getting in front of folks and telling everyone you need to make changes, right? It starts at home, literally starts at home. What changes
That's
can
right.
you do there? Thank you so much for being on our show.
Appreciate the time, and then thank you for having me on.